All right, so let me ask you a question. So have you ever looked at another musician, listened to their music, or watched one of their videos or performances or something, and thought to yourself, like, they're a lot better than me? I'm kind of jealous. So we're in the graveyard again, like always, because, you know, why not? I like graveyards, they're cool, and they're all peaceful and stuff, and they're also, you know, kind of metal too, so it works out. So I'm going to tell you a little story. So about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, a friend of mine, he sent me a song by this guy named Plini, and I had never heard of Plini before at the time, but he was this, now he's like this really well-known sort of modern solo instrumental progressive metal guitarist, something like that. He's kind of like on the forefront of that kind of genre now. Him and people like probably like Toes and Abasi, stuff like that. I feel like they're kind of like the figureheads for like modern stuff, kind of like that, which is basically the kind of genre that I do too. So anyway, he showed me this guy I never heard before at the time, Plini. So I heard the song that he sent. It's called Heart, and I really liked it. And it's like, this guy's really good. He's a very good guitarist. So I looked him up, Plini, and turns out he's the same age as me. At the time, I was probably like 24 or something like that. So I was like, okay, so he's also my age. And I looked him up on like Wikipedia, and I was like, oh, he actually even kind of resembles me. Interesting. He like kind of has like the same build as me. His hair is similar. It's like he kind of looks very similar actually in some ways. So I was like, Plini. And I was immediately like kind of jealous, because I was like, all right, he's like a lot better than I was at the time. Actually, he still is better than me, definitely. So I was like, all right, so he's a lot better than me. He's apparently a lot more successful than me. You know, like the recording quality of his music sounded better than mine, like a lot better. And yeah, I was feeling a little jealous. In the last video I made, I talked about honesty and being authentic and transparent. So I'm going to be very honest right now and say that so I didn't listen to that song, Heart. I didn't listen to that song or any other song by Plini for the next like 2 years. It's so stupid. I know, it's really dumb, but I guess that's how insecure I was at the time. So a couple of years later, it was like 2016, and I heard that Animals as Leaders, which is another, you know, prog metal band, you know, it has Toes and Abasi in it, like I just mentioned. He's the main guitarist in that band. I heard that they were going to be playing, and I had never seen them before, and they're going to be playing in Philly, which is around where I live in PA. So I heard that, I was like, oh cool. So I looked it up, and I was going to buy tickets, and I was like, oh, Plini's Plini's opening for him. Oh. And so honestly, it's so stupid. I was like, I felt a certain way about it. But then I was like, wait a second, you know what? I had enough awareness of what is the right thing to do and the mature thing to do, to be like, you know what? I'm just going to go. And this is kind of going to be like my way of just dealing with my jealousy, just like being a bigger person, basically. I'm not going to like not go and see Animals as Leaders just because Plini's playing. That would have been ridiculous. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to face my own shit, basically. And honestly, that wasn't an easy decision to make. But I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to support Plini. This guy who I saw as like almost like my competition, and I was like kind of butthurt because he seemed like he was like the same as me, but he was just so much better and more successful. So yeah, the time came and I went to see Animals as Leaders, and Plini played, and also Intervals played, and I also realized how much I love Intervals from that show. I love Intervals. I did a cover of their one of their songs on my channel. But anyway, so yeah, I went and saw the show, and Plini played first, and I swear to God, like I left that show with a completely different perspective on Plini, and I swear to God, like any jealousy that was there was just gone. It was just extinguished. it's like when I got to finally see him in person and I got to hear him and kind of experience his personality and stuff, I was like, he's just a really cool guy. Like, I actually like this guy a lot. And after that show, it was like all the jealousy that I once had just changed to respect and admiration for this guy. And I was inspired, actually. It was more like it went from jealousy to being inspired by someone. Because if you think about it, it's like that person that you feel like you're in competition with. My hair looks kind of crazy right now, but I haven't had a haircut since like 5 months because of the whole coronavirus thing, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, so the thing about like you feel like you're in competition with someone or whatever, it's like when you think about it, it's like they're just a human too. That's one thing that I realized, is like they're just another person trying to make it just like you. They're just a human with feelings. So if you think about it, in my opinion, like feeling jealous of someone, it kind of comes from this place of lack. If you want to get a little deeper about it, it comes from like this lack mentality as opposed to an abundance mentality. So you could say, just literally just based on our results, Plini had more of an abundance mentality than I did. I had a more lack mentality, because I really believe it's like the results that you get in life are a direct result of your mindset, of your mentality, of like how you see yourself. It's also a result of the work you're willing to put in to whatever you're trying to do, which also probably stems from your belief in yourself. So if you're coming from this place of like lack or something like that, if you think about it, it's this really small place. You're just a very small thing. It's like you're in a corner. Basically, feel like any time where you put yourself into that little corner and you're looking at someone else as like competition or something like that, that's, in my opinion, kind of like maybe from like a spiritual perspective or something, because I like that kind of stuff too, is like if you have the mentality, it's actually going to prevent you from achieving that success. So like one thing that I learned several years ago that actually really helped me with this, and I'll say now that I rarely ever feel jealous. I can say that with complete honesty. I rarely ever feel jealous of other musicians or anything. I do every now and then. It is rare. I'm probably like 98% there now. One thing that I learned that really, really changed my perspective on this was like several years ago. I read this book called Mastery by Robert Greene, and it was one of the best books I've ever read. And one of the things that he said in there, it was extremely insightful, is that like if you look at masters of anything, it could be, music or art or anything. He basically made the case to say that all these people who we see as like geniuses or something like that, or have this like innate talent or something like that, what it really is, in his opinion, and I agree with this, is that they just put in more work. They put in more practice. They put in more time. Usually when you see people who are extraordinary at what they do, it's because they were obsessive about it. And that's really what separates them from other people. It's not the fact that they're any better or anything like that. They just put in more practice. So if you start to see it from that perspective, it becomes less of like a competition. You feel less like, oh, they're just better. You can really start to see it from like a really practical perspective. And then if you see it like that, it actually becomes a lot more empowering, because then you're like, well, if it's a matter of practice, then I can do that too. I just have to do it. So once you realize that it's a lot less about like them versus me, it's just a matter of like, what am I willing to do? It's up to me, actually. So one thing that I've realized, one thing that I put into practice, and you can use that as an example, the whole thing about going to see him despite the fact that I was jealous of him at the time. When you do something like that, that's actually very powerful, because it's kind of like you're making a statement, not to get all spiritual, but like kind of like making a statement to the universe. It's like you're going to attract more success into your own life, because I'm a huge proponent of like the law of attraction and stuff like that. So by supporting someone else, you're going to attract more of that into your life as well. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because if you're not supporting someone, because you're like envious or butthurt or something like that, you're really operating from fear. You're like afraid that there's not enough to go around. And if you're someone, I'm imagining like Plini, who was probably operating out of love because he probably thought that there's more than enough to go around, which is the reason why he succeeded so greatly at this point. Do you think there's more enough to go around? Do you think that there's like scarcity? Do you think that there's lack, that it's a competition, there's only so much success to be had? That's a really dangerous mindset, because it's going to prevent you from achieving the success that you secretly want. Because you secretly believe that it's like it's not possible for you, actually, because of this lack mindset that you have. It's not even about the other person. It's about this mindset that you have, something that maybe you learned in childhood or something like that. You have this lack mentality. You don't think it's possible for you. Plini thought that it was possible for him, or else he wouldn't have achieved that level of success. So I think once you start realizing these things, the more you realize that you're actually responsible and you're in charge and you are in control of your destiny, actually. And so I think that's another reason why I'm rarely ever jealous anymore, is because I'm always going for things now, like, which is something that I wasn't doing in the past. Now I'm actually doing things. I'm actually going after what I want. And I have this huge goal and this dream and everything, and I'm actually like making it happen. And having said all that, I think there's something to be said about healthy competition. I mean, it's not like you can see someone who's like a colleague or something like that, and you can be inspired by them. You can have the sense of healthy competition in the sense that it makes you feel good. You know what I mean? You're not coming from a place of fear. You're like actually happy for their success, and you're using it to be inspired to have more success for yourself. I think that's good competition. But yeah, if you ever find that you're in a situation where it's not friendly competition and you're actively like not supporting them because you're jealous and stuff like that, that is a very small place to be in, and you're probably not going to succeed if you continue to operate from that very small place. So it's really important to recognize that, so you can start seeing things from a place of abundance rather than lack. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that, if you have ever experienced anything like that. I'm assuming if you are a musician, then you have, because it's just very common. And just what are your experiences with that? If you overcame it, like what did you do to overcome it? What do you do on a daily basis to overcome it? Let me know. Maybe you've never experienced it. If that's happened to you, let me know that, because that would be like extraordinary, probably. All right, so I post new stuff every Monday and Thursday, so definitely subscribe if you want to see more of this, as well as like guitar performances and other kinds of tips. Also have a Patreon, so you can go there and support me and to help fund my videos, and also get really cool exclusive content, and that's going to be in the link in the description. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. All right, see ya.